Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're discussing the second season of the biblical animated series Superbook.
Yes, and if you recall, our first season was covered in animated Bible series and movies.
Right, we did a whole podcast on that.
We've attached a link or a card so you can click on that if you haven't seen it.
Right.
Now this series continues as Chris, Joy, and Gizmo learn Bible lessons through the Superbook as they journey through different amazing events from the Bible, from Noah to Elijah to Esther and even Job, which we really were surprised was actually covered in a kids series.
Right. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click notification bell based on future podcasts and multiple videos.
And we are fully aware that this is supposed to be just for kids, but I don't care. It's loved by many adults around the world, and many adults watch it, including Playmaker.
Right.
And we are proud that we watch Superbook. It's beautifully animated. It's got so much to offer in storytelling, and not only in reflecting the stories from the Bible, but in the way they add in modern day issues or problems to cover the story.
Right. And we covered season 1, and when they had a certain amount of episodes, I don't think they're that long. They're not long seasons. But the first one, we were surprised on the story they did. They did the basic ones originally, like David and Goliath and Lion's Den, the Nativity, and some basic ones. But when we started watching it got towards the end, we realized they weren't just doing the basic ones. They were actually going the extra mile to bring about as many of the stories as possible, whether they were the ones kids would know or not, or what they deem kid friendly. So they managed to put out the stories and still making them for kids where it's not super scary, but it's getting the point across and not changing what the events happen.
And again, making it relevant with the modern day depiction of the stories,
Right.
things that Chris or Joy are going through or
Right.
experiencing,
Right.
and lining it up with the lesson from the message in the Bible.
Right. Now, a few of them, when it got towards later, it did start to stretch.
It was stretching, yeah.
Yeah, a few of them were a bit of a stretch, but the upside is that they didn't mess with the biblical event. They just were trying to find a parallel to modern day, and that's the only thing they may fumble a few times on, but they don't change what happens in the story. So that is actually a good trade-off. You're still getting the lesson. They're just trying to find something to line up, which is fine. I mean, sometimes it can be a little difficult to try to find some things that line up with these events. So with here they had ones like we mentioned Noah, Elijah, Esther, Gideon, Job. What else they have? Well, Noah's already expecting a little later. I think they had Saul. They had Saul in here. And
I think the most impressive one that really sticks with us again is Job. We've never seen it done as a movie or as part of a series.
Right.
It's just never done.
Right.
And they found a way to balance the lesson and the story and the events that happen and make it kid friendly and relevant.
Right.
And if you're familiar with that book, you know that Job loses everything. His children, his home, his wealth. The only thing he doesn't lose, he loses health, but he doesn't lose his wife and he doesn't lose his life. And it's not a story that is told and it's not graphic. It's very graphic in the Bible as far as to what happens and the loss.
Right.
And we were wondering just how are they going to be able to do this and make it where it's not something that might possibly bother younger kids. For older kids, it won't. They watch movies with this stuff.
Right.
But for the younger ones, no.
Right.
But they managed to do it, and they managed to bring up a modern day dilemma that made it really relevant.
Right. And it was the only episode of the season where they didn't make any jokes out of it. They may have Gizmo say a funny line once or twice, but the whole thing is played very straight because Chris goes through something pretty serious. He loses a family member and he becomes angry, and it's a lot of things we see come up in other religious movies where people are sort of doubting. So in here they decided to tackle that with Job. And like I said, they play it very straightforward. There's no joking around. There's no comedy or anything. They play it very straightforward, and the message is put across, and they don't mince words or anything, so you get the whole meaning of it the whole time. So it was a serious episode for kids.
And another one that stood out, as we mentioned, is Esther. You've seen it done multiple versions in multiple ways, but in this one, it was done a little differently. One, in the way that Esther appears and Boaz appears. Normally, we know he was older. And normally, they make him where it's a grandfather type looking person and where she couldn't possibly really be attracted physically. But in this one, they don't go that route. They make it more like what would really happen probably in modern day, where he has traits that are attractive that might appeal to her not only as a person and spiritually, but also where she would find him attractive and vice versa. And that's something different that we've seen versus other versions we've seen in the series, including VeggieTales.
Right.
And we don't have a preference. We just think it's nice to see them put a slightly different spin on it and take and make it again where it's more relatable and relevant for those who are watching it now.
Right.
But the same biblical message gets through, the same message of love and obedience, the same message of honoring and sticking with your family comes through Chris and his aunt.
Right. And then they even have a story with
Chris and his aunt.
Yeah. It's Chris and his aunt, and they actually end up doing this in season 3. We won't bring up. They actually end up doing this a little later with them. The parallel is slightly stretched, but it's not so much where it's like you can't really see it. But as you said, it's about, sticking up for them, taking, being with them, appreciating the family. As as Ruth did. I'm sorry, I mixed it up by accident. So yeah.
I did too. I said Esther. Forgive us, guys. We meant Ruth.
All right.
Yes, Esther is the queen. Sorry about that. We know you know what we meant, but thank you for straightening us out. We meant Ruth.
Right.
But Esther was also interesting.
Right.
And the way that it was done as well.
Right. And they also have Walls of Jericho. They had Story of Joseph, which if you've seen the movie, you can just condense it down to pretty much 30 minutes. So I feel like it goes a bit fast in case you've seen the movie so many times. It's like, isn't this short? Well, I guess it would be.
If you haven't watched Superbook, or if you are someone who's familiar with the series, animation is still beautifully done and fluid. And for some reason this season, Joy and Chris look more like twins, like they're brother and sister, fraternal twins.
Right.
And friends for some reason. But you also get to see them have more outfit changes, and you get to see them in more different locations, not just at his house, not just in his yard, and not just at school.
Right.
You see them in a lot of different locations this time.
Right. So they actually went through the effort of having them be involved in different situations. Now, nothing as bad as when the house burned down in season 1.
Ooh, yeah.
It doesn't get that bad, but it has one dark episode we mentioned with Job, but it's for a purpose. But they don't get as bad as that situation with this season. We don't know about season 3 though.
Which we have started, and Playmaker will be joining us on season 3's podcast.
Right.
As well as he's recommended another series, if you guys are familiar with, let us know in the comments, called The Flying House.
Yes,
so
which
we can't wait to see that.
Which turns out to be
like another Superbook.
Yeah. Like, wow, this is pretty similar.
So we watched the first episode, we really liked it, so stay tuned for those two as well.
Right.
And if you've seen season 2 of Superbook, let us know what you think in the comments below. Have you seen all of the seasons? Is this something that, no matter your age, you really have enjoyed it and loved just the storytelling, the animation, the familiarity with the stories, and just seeing them being done in a different format and from a different take? Let us know in the comments below. If you haven't seen Superbook, seasons 1 and 2 are actually available for free on YouTube, and they are available on Prime as well.
Right. So, be sure to like, subscribe, and click notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Absolutely.
And thanks to our Possum family for watching.
Yes, and we hope you're enjoying this season of Easter and Passover.
Yes, of both. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Hit her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket.